So I'd like to shift to is to talk about what you've done since you've been out, because that to me is what I think that's what the people on the inside, that's what they really gravitate
Sure.
toward as they're watching this podcast. So let's talk about what happened when you got out and the different paths that you walked down in different areas. Starting with education.
Sure. I do want to make a point about, you know, while I was in the drug program, and this is prior also. Um, I always, I when I was in the medium, what I did is I took all the GED books, the math, science, social studies, reading and writing, and the essay book, and I brought them to my cell, and I started going through them. I did all the problems. I did them all, and I just went through them in a matter of months, and that helped me. It helped me refresh everything that I needed, and it helped me gain more, ability to read and write. And so I would do that. And so then that's when I started getting the tutor positions. But anyway, moving forward, there's always a book that you can read, even if it's not like an educational book or a self-help book. Maybe read a novel. It starts helping your brain, process. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it makes you do better. Now, in the RDAP program, August, you know this, there's a lot of individuals who are just there because they wanted the time off. And I get it. I wanted the time off as well, you know. Uh, uh, but you still had to go through the program. And while I was going through the program, I always said, you know what? I'm here now. Why not just apply? I don't see anything wrong with this program. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
If anything, it's going to teach me how to think better, how to challenge things about myself. You know what I mean? Because I mean, we get so deep rooted in our own core beliefs that we don't see them for what they are, and they could be flawed. They could be crippling us as a person. So I applied myself. And you know what? And it doesn't matter if you're sitting in the shoe in the special housing unit, if you get sent to segregation, they still give you books. You can apply yourself there. You can read, you can write, and just use everything. There are resources. You know what I mean? And so that's what I did. And you know what? I applied and at the RDAP, and that some of those um, some of those tools that RDAP teaches you, I still use to this day, and they have been helpful for me. They help me think about what I'm thinking about. They help me challenge who I am, and then coming out, I used those. I applied myself. And so getting out, I went to a halfway house, and I remember the first week, August, you know, you could be, uh, you could be prepared. You could have all your ducks in a row, but once you hit that that first step into freedom, it's a different world. I remember being in the halfway house and my counselor there saying, "Mr. Valdez, um, you can go and get some hygiene products and this and that, and then just come back." And I'm like, okay. And so they let me go on a bus trip to go get hygiene products. I remember walking into Walgreens, and that's where it just all came tumbling down. It was maybe I was 2, 3 days into the halfway house, and that was my first trip outside by myself. I was looking for deodorant and some hygiene products, and I remember just looking, there's 50 deodorants. I must have sat right in front of that aisle for about 20, 25 minutes, just like in shock. Not even that, but the reality of everything. And I was sweating. And mind you, it's a Walgreens. There's air conditioning, but I'm just drenched. And I remember an old lady coming up, "Can I help you with something?" I'm like, "No, no, I'm good." It was just so overwhelming. I grabbed the deodorant that I recognized. I needed more stuff, but I wasn't going to stay there any longer. I was getting anxiety. So I grabbed the deodorant, paid for it, went back, and I went to my counselor. I said, "Hey, I need time. I can't do anything." They said, "Well, you need to do this, this, and this." I said, "You know what? Violate me. Violate me. This is overwhelming." I even contact my sisters who would visit me every visitation, and I said, "Don't come." They're like, "Why?" I said, "This is too much." Because when they would come, they would bring me gifts and stuff like that. "Hey, we got you some clothes and this and that, and we got you this and this and that, and we got you some shoes," and it was too much. And here I am in prison, like, "Oh, I'm ready. This is going to be great." And then when it hit me, it was just too much, you know. I want to say that I cried. I probably did because it was just so overwhelming. I needed to go at my own pace, and everybody has a different pace, Augie. And so then finally, I was like, okay, now I'm getting into the swing of things. Now I'm getting in the swing of things. And then I started working towards a halfway house, and then going through the after treatment. You know what I mean? And that also helped too. A lot of guys they think it's a waste of time, but it's a place where you can go and process, and guys do. And the good thing is that there were small there were small groups. So you got to know the guys, and when you shared, it wasn't like, oh, I don't feel comfortable, and that was a good thing. It helped me. And so finally I get out, and I got my own place. My probation officer, went to scope it out. Okay, you're fine. And so I started working. I started working at a moving company. I was just like, this is just temporary for now. While I was in this moving company, something told me. I was already involved in a church playing, and but then working at a moving company, I was like, but I need to do something else. And I wanted to go to school, but I wanted to go to school to be a nurse or to something in the medical field. However, the difficulty was being that I was a drug offender and I have a drug conviction. You cannot be a nurse when you have a drug conviction. You have to wait 15 years after you're released, after you're off probation, to apply to be a nurse. And so I say, okay, that's just too much time. So what could be the next best thing? I said, you know what? Physical therapy. I can go into physical therapy. They don't prescribe narcotics. And so I went and I wrote the Minnesota Board of Physical Therapy. And I said, hey, this is my case. They said, you know what, Mr. Valdez, you would just have to apply. I said, apply would mean that I would have to, they said you would have to apply to get your license as a physical therapist. I said, applying would mean that I have to go through all the schooling, get my PhD in it, and then apply for it, for you guys to say no. So it was too much uncertainty there. But I still I still thought about it. So I started taking the steps. I remember just getting online and applying. And it wasn't like I set time apart to start applying. No, I just took the steps. It was like almost like, automated. Like I wasn't controlling my body. It just did it. And I did it on my phone actually, Augie. I applied to a school. I said, just apply. The first thing, just apply. Don't think about it, just apply. And I did. And I applied. And sure enough, once you apply, they they actually after that the college takes over. They start telling you, okay, yeah, you've been accepted. Now this is what you need to do. They don't just say, hey, you're accepted, go ahead. No, no, they assist you. They want you to be enrolled.
Yep.
It's a benefit to them.
Yep.
And so they give you all the resources in an email. And so then you're just like, okay, cool. And so you can even go in there in person, just say, hey, I just need help, and they are there to help you. I recommend maybe starting at a community college for some individuals who aren't familiar with higher education. So they assisted me. They told me, hey, you need to apply for financial aid. You need to do this, do that, and so I did all follow those steps. I didn't even know it. Before I even knew it, I was sitting in class the first day of school in the fall of 2016. I was
And so
just
you
sitting in
started
class.
you started an associate's program to get an associate's degree, correct?
Exactly. Yes. So it was an associate's degree at Century College in White Bear Lake. I ended up uh, during that time I had a child, my daughter, my beautiful daughter, and she lived in Mankato, but I was living in St. Paul. So then I eventually moved to Mankato. So I just went to a different college, but I still was given the credits to Century. I ended up graduating with a with a 4.0 out of the Century College, and I even got outstanding student award, outstanding student of the year there at Century College. They put a big photo of you in the hallways and stuff like that. And so, but they gave it to me towards the end of the year. But anyway, so go ahead. Oh,
Well, I was just going to say, and then you didn't stop there, right? I mean, as
no.
far as education, and
Yep.
I think by this time I'm out, or close to being out, and we had phone
Yep.
conversation, and you were talking about wanting to go on to the University of Minnesota, right? And
Yeah.
so the next step was to take the associate's degree and take it to the next level. So could you share that a little bit?
Sure. Sure. So actually, going to while I was going to the community college, I already knew that I wanted to go to a university. But I did want to go to the University of Minnesota, but I didn't want to commute anymore because the University of Minnesota is in the metro area, but I'm in Mankato. So I went to Minnesota State University,
Right.
Mankato. So I was already taking courses in Mankato State University that applied to my to my associate's degree, and that was a kind of a like a good transition, so that you're getting a feel for the university uh, school life, because community college and university life are very different. It's not as personable, and it's more like, hey, you got to get your work done. Yeah, you still find resources there, but they're more scarce, because community college is more uh, they're smaller, less students, but university, it's more like boom, boom, boom. You got some experience, go ahead. And so I did. I transitioned over. And while I was at MSU, I was double majoring. I was majoring in communications degree, and I was majoring in biology. And so, you know what I mean? I was just like, okay, let's do this. And I'm tackling it. I'm maintaining a 4.0. And while I'm going to school, I when I got to Mankato, I started working for this tree company. And 6 months into the tree company, I'm actually running the crews now. You know what I mean? I'm the foreman, and I'm doing everything, the cut and everything. And so I got a crew that I supervise and I manage. And so I'm doing that and doing this, and then kind of like COVID starts hitting, and it just kind of it put a damper on things. I'm a very social individual, and so I like to be in front of people. And so what that did is that actually it knocked out my 4.0. I had perfect grades up until COVID. Then I got my first B, and then it started kind of, dropping. So I was trying to manage two, two, I was trying to manage two majors, a full-time job, trying to be a single father to my daughter, and then you know what I mean, and then being involved in church, and aside also assisting with Second Opportunity, and you know what I mean, and furthermore, just trying to have time for myself and for my friends, which I like to do. So it proved to be overwhelming. So as I told my advisor, I said the first thing that gets cut is school. You know what I mean? And so she said, "Okay, what do you think you should do?" I said, "You know what? Let me just not double major." I was like, let's see, what classes do I have the most in communications? You have the most in communications. See, like you could do communications and just minor in biology, because when you're doing a communication degree, you need a minor. And so I already had biology. So we mapped it out, and it was like, oh, you can be done in less than a year. And so I was like, let's do that. And so I did. I went on, and then I finished school in December of 2023. I graduated magna cum laude, so 3.6 and above. And you know, while I was there, I got an email, or while I was approaching my graduation, I got an email stating that I was nominated to be the commencement speaker. And so I remember thinking, I was like, oh, I don't want to take on anything else. I'm gonna have finals, and I had like a genetics course, and then a senior, what do they call it? A senior seminar thing that I had to do also. So I was like, this is just, I don't know. So I remember it was due one at a day at midnight to or to put in your speech because they want to see if you'd be a good candidate. So I mean, you're not I'm nominated, but I just have to put my speech in or submit it. And so it was 2 hours before midnight, and I was in the library, and I spent, oh my God, countless hours at that MSU library. But and so I said, you know what? If I don't submit something, I may regret it in the future. So I just said, I told my study buddy, I was like, hey man, I'll be right back. I'm gonna go. I have to do some on the side, submit some. He's like, yeah, go ahead. So I went into a quiet room and just quickly typed something up. Not quickly. I had already, it's kind of something like this. You know what I mean? I already have it played out. And so I typed it up and I submitted it. And a week later, they said, congratulations. You're going to be the commencement speaker or the commencement speaker for the College of Arts and Humanities. And so I was like, oh my gosh.
How cool is that?
It
That's
was
great.
great. It was
That's
great,
great.
but it just added more of the workload because now I got a speech coach. Now that we're reviewing my speech, now I have to clean it up, and so it's like okay, But luckily, my speech coach was a professor that I befriended, and it was easier. So we got our speech done. I kept on practicing it and everything, and then graduation came, and I gave the commencement speech. One of the highlights was during that. You guys can actually put in the link. It's on YouTube. One of the highlights is that when I was walking up there, I saw my English teacher in high school. Her name was Jackie Arnold, and she was a professor at MSU. She left high school and then she became a professor at MSU, and I saw her there, and she was one of the kindest teachers and one of the few that believed in me. And I remember we had this kind of like this class trip, and we were walking in town in high school, and I remember like we're all walking, with the teachers and stuff like that. And all of a sudden a cop pulls up and he just stops and he points at me and he goes, "You come here." And I walk over there. I'm like, "What's up?" And then he starts talking to me about something that happened, wants to get information and this and that. And he's like, "I know you did it," and this and that. I don't remember what it was, but I remember Mrs. Arnold comes up. She's like, "Is he in trouble?" And he's like, "No, I'm just talking to him." "Okay, we'll be on our way then." And he just walked me away. But I mean, that just shows you like the level of like person that I was with the authorities in this town. That they just stop me right in the middle of school and start questioning me and blaming me and all this stuff. And then she just came over there, kind lady, just said, "Oh, okay, well then we'll just be on our way. We're in school. Thank you, bye." But the fact that she saw all that, and then the fact that she gets to see me walk and see me give a speech. And before I gave the speech, I walked over to her and I gave her a hug. And then I gave the speech. So that was a beautiful thing. I'm so
That's
grateful that she was there. Yeah.
that's a great story.
Thank you.
You mentioned just a minute ago about did some, were involved with second opportunity. So if you're watching this on the inside, you obviously have a tablet. And if you have a tablet, either we're fully in your facility, meaning that we've got our entire program in there, which provides all these courses and post-release support, or at least we've got a sample of our program that you can see it. So if you go into your tablet, you'll see Ulysses' face on the second opportunity program, the Spanish version,
Yep.
because when we started recording this, and I saw clearly that we needed to have a Spanish version of a reentry program. To be very honest, there's only one name that popped in my mind, and it was Ulysses because of all I had seen him do and his story about being involved in education, being involved in music, so he was comfortable in front of an audience and those types of things. So he did come. We were in at Johnny Cash's farm just outside of
Yeah.
Nashville, and we were on a stage that was Johnny Cash's stage with Elvis's motorcycle behind us, and they brought in a professional film crew. And if you're watching this on a tablet, you can find Ulysses in there and doing some work for Second Opportunity.
Yeah.
So we're running long on time here, but I'm having a great conversation, really enjoying it.
Great.
I hope those of you watching it on the inside are enjoying it as well. But I do want to ask you to just kind of talk about you started a company. So you were talking about you went to work in for a tree company, and then COVID came and so on and so forth. But
Yep.
part of your journey has been becoming an entrepreneur. So it's
Yep.
not just the education piece, it's not just the involvement in your church, it's that you became an entrepreneur. So you just talk for a minute or two about the company that you opened, what you do, and what that experience has been for you.
Sure. So like what I stated before, while I was going to school, I started working for a tree company. Well, I jumped out of that tree company just because we had differences, and so I remember my pastor. He's like, "Why don't you start a tree company?" I thought about it and I prayed about it, and I was like, "You know what? I think I will." And so I started this company. Just I don't know. Maybe I should have chose something different because tree service is one of the highest, the most expensive overheads. So it's been I started it back in 2021, just right after COVID, and so it has been difficult to grow it. Uh, is it like it's teaching me a lot about myself because I have nobody to blame if my company succeeds or not. But at the same time, if you keep putting effort into something, it's going to take off eventually. It's just how much time you want to put into it. Like in painting, Augie, we could sit here and paint a painting and keep touching it up, but a painting is never truly finished. They say you just stop working at it. So the same thing with a business. You know what I mean? It showed me more about myself and things that are coming up that are, oh, that's not a very good character. You know what I mean? And so I'm working and it's become my baby and I cater to it, and but it's also pushing me to do other things, to open up more things. So also the other thing that we're doing is just kind of like it's still like not official, but we're doing what's called a Project Sons of Thunder. And in the Bible, Jesus calls James and John sons of thunder because they were hot-headed. They were always quick to just overreact and get into fights and stuff like that. And that's kind of how I used to be, and kind of how the guys, my brothers in Christ, used to be also. A lot of the my community, my support community in church are individuals who were incarcerated too, or been through a lot of that stuff. So we go out and we um, reach out to individuals who are struggling and having a rough a rough time in life, and we just talk to them and listen to them. Not necessarily saying you need Christ, but just hear them out because that's what they need. One thing I want to point out that none of this has come easy. It it's easy when you find support and you find people who are there to help you. It's easy because you're learning. You can choose not to do anything and be miserable, or you can choose to do something and still be miserable because it's hard work. You just got to choose your level. What hard do you want? What hardship do you want to not do anything and just not, feel worthless, or do you want to do something and feel worth? They're both hard. They're both hard living. You know what I mean? One thing I want to point out is that I understand why recidivism is high. I understand why individuals go back to prison. It's it's not easy out here. What makes it easy is your willpower saying, you know what? I choose today to work towards it again, to work towards my goals. That's what it is. It's the same as like an addiction. You know what I mean? Today you choose not to drink. Today you choose not to smoke. I don't know what tomorrow brings, but today or even this moment, I choose this. And so that's the difficult, that's the beauty of it. I shouldn't say difficulty. That's the beauty of it. You just boom. But you will see obstacles. Listen, incarcerated, you don't have the I'm speaking to the population here. You guys don't have the stresses of coming out here, having to pay rent, having to pay insurance, having to pay for your groceries, having to prepare your own food, having to wash your own clothes. and all that stuff. That is what makes recidivism. And then you get a job initially and you see those checks and like, wow, this is a lot. But in reality, when you start getting into the stage of where you actually now have a vehicle, you have your own place, you have, this and that. And if you have children, child support, or they need stuff, you know what I mean? That becomes so overwhelming. But every day you have to remind yourself what you're doing this for. Every day you have to decide that, you know what, I'm gonna get out of bed, put my bootstraps or I'm gonna put my tie on and I'm gonna go out and just stomp the streets with what needs to be done. And that's how we just, how you keep moving forward. But it isn't easy, guys. But listen, I'm here to tell you that I am living proof that it is accomplished. It is attainable. You know what I mean? Uh, Person like me, a person like Augie, we are defying statistics. In the sense like we're defying, we're the ones that in that small percentage of that did not go back, that did not recidivate. And recidivism doesn't mean that you just generally go back to incarceration. It means that you go back to your old behaviors. You know what I mean? That doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to go out slanging dope, but you're going out and you're not, really, you don't have the purpose that you do. So while you're incarcerated, do get what you need to get to. Really, really get your goals in order, details, everything. The more you have as far as what you need to do, the better. You know what I mean? And then just start accomplishing those micro milestones, and you'll see it makes you feel good. Keep a to-do list. You know what I mean? I have a to-do list on my phone. Keep a to-do list. Keep checking them off. That helps out as you move forward. Now, I'm not saying, hey, come out here and run for president. No, you have to do small little things first. If you want to start a business, now remember in second opportunity goal setting course, they teach you first you get your principal goal, but then you break it down, and then what's this goal? What's the base goal? You know what I mean? But then you make that your principal goal, and then you see how you get to that. So that's how you have to break them down. Always break them down in smaller chunks. Like the saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Well, maybe not me because I take those big bites. But yeah, yeah,
Listen, this was great. I'm so much appreciate your time. Your fascinating story. It's encouraging. It's inspirational, and so to those that watch the Path Forward podcast, I appreciate it so much. Um, I appreciate that you could listen to Ulysses' story, and I'm really transparent when I say what I want out of this podcast is to bring some hope and inspiration to the inside, in a place where it's dark most days, to listen to somebody tell their story and be able to look and say, what I want to hear is people on the inside saying, man, if Ulysses can do it, I can do it. Because
yeah,
that's what we want people to think as they walk out the door, knowing that it's not going to be easy, but there are definitely paths out there that we can take. So
sure.
again, my name's Augie Ghilarducci. This is the Path Forward podcast. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to you seeing us again in 2 weeks. Thank you.